During the Philippine-Japanese War, my college served as a hospital to injured soldiers, and the field next to it, which is currently the university's wide plaza of Carabao grass, is the cemetery. I often heard stories of unusual encounters in my college from my fellow students, and some even happened during my years in college, one of which I participated in. It happened in room 22. Me and my classmates would mostly spend our classes in room 22 since our major subjects would always be arranged in that room. There weren't any unusual occurrence that had happened prior to the unfortunate date. However, the class where it happened isn't our usual schedule since it was a makeup class. My professor missed a few sessions of her designated class schedule and she begged us for a makeup class, to which she regretted so much. However, midterms was approaching and basically, we're all occupied, and it wasn't the only subject we're getting makeup classes. Alas, we all agreed on a 7 p.m. schedule. The college building is huge and there were no night classes, so even if there were few other rooms that were occupied, we still felt alone in room 22. Also, I would reiterate, the ambiance is too creepy, as some parts of the hallways are dimmed already. We settled in the classroom with no problems, and our professor came in 5 minutes late. She is the kind of professor that would always check the attendance, but instead of her usual routine of calling our names, she counted us instead. Prior to that, we had told her 3 of our classmates were absent. That was where she made a horrible mistake. Counting us. So there's 19 of you. My record says there's 21 of you. But if 3 were absent, shouldn't you be 18? We mentioned the names of those who were absent, and some of us even started counting. Surely 3 weren't around and our classmates confirmed we're 18. But my professor's pride took in, and she counted us again. She insisted 19. "Ma'am, it's 7 p.m. You shouldn't be making jokes," I remember my classmate said in between lines, and some of us even chuckled. My professor's face was dead serious though, and I remembered clearly how she skimmed her eyes around us and said, "Do you mean I am counting someone you don't see?" We all went silent. Of course, how could we miss something as basic as counting when we are all math majors in the room? Then my professor said calmly, "We should not continue. Room 22 is already occupied." My second experience was not in our college, but in Campus B, a big lot beside our university connected by an overpass. It was in the College of Science and Mathematics. This time it happened in the statistics lab, as they call it. There wasn't so much in it, but long tables, stool chairs, a whiteboard, and an LCD projector. I don't know the history of this college, but what I know, the high school adjacent to it was an extension of another cemetery. Our professor, God bless his soul, started with no problems whatsoever. Although, we observed he started being anxious as he started writing on the second part of the board. But the most questionable part was his limping leg. He was in his mid-30s, and he always meet the class on the designated time. We know he did not have any injuries when he came in the lab. Another thing was his constant stuttering. He never stuttered. Finally, 20 minutes in the middle of class discussion, he dismissed us suddenly. "I'm sorry, something came up. I need to go." Although deeply confused, of course we were thrilled that we could go home now. It wasn't until 2 days later that he counted the story to his colleagues. Some of them were our instructors too, so the revelation reached us pretty quickly, and it was creepy as hell. The truth was, my professor was seeing 2 kids playing around the room, and the limping leg was because one of them is snugging on it, and he was carrying that kid back and forth, while trying to continue class and be nonchalant about it. I'm going to share a chilling incident that happened to my father about 45 years ago, back when he was still alive. We used to have an old terrace that had been broken down about 40 years ago, where my father and his cousin brothers used to sleep at night. Now, let me get to the heart of the story. On that old terrace of our building, there was a person named Peter, who was also a friend of my father. He tragically jumped and committed suicide due to false allegations of fraud against him. People used to claim they saw him standing there, but my father was skeptical of anything supernatural at the time. He brushed it off as fictional and imaginary until his beliefs were shaken. One night, as he was sleeping, my father suddenly heard someone calling his name. He dismissed it as his imagination and tried to go back to sleep. But then it happened again, and he woke up in a fright. He saw a figure wearing white pajamas in front of him, just like the ones Peter wore when he took his own life. It was Peter, smiling at him before vanishing into thin air. My father was terrified and never spoke about it except to my late grandmother, who angrily scolded him and forbade him from ever sleeping on that old terrace again. From then on, my father avoided the old terrace and slept in the hall instead. He and my grandmother experienced several strange occurrences on that terrace, even during the day, but they chose to ignore them. When the old terrace was finally demolished in 1984, approximately 40 years ago, the strange events ceased, and everything returned to normal in our building. My dad used to work as a corrections officer at a rural prison. He drove the perimeter of the property for his entire shift, where he would check empty buildings for runaway inmates. It was generally a boring job. One night, my dad was parked on a hill reading a magazine when he started to feel a thumping in his body. He described it as the feeling you get when speakers are playing a song with really heavy bass. He put the magazine down and checked his rearview mirror, where he saw someone outside the truck. He grabbed his pistol and jumped out of the truck with his weapon drawn. Outside the truck, he realized it was a procession of Native Americans walking through the truck and directly through his seat, only to disappear at the exact spot he was sitting. He said it was clear they were ghosts because many of them appeared injured. This went on for a few seconds, and then the whole procession disappeared. He called the other perimeter guy on his walkie to try to explain, and the other guy almost immediately stopped communicating. Turns out the other guy had seen this happen before but didn't believe in ghosts, so he wouldn't talk about it. I hope you like these horror stories which happened in real life, and comment your story if you ever faced any ghost or demon. Go to the channel for more horror stories and other amazing historical facts. Please like and subscribe for more, and share with your friends. Thank you.